hour ago by Ian Rappaport. He reported that the Dallas Cowboys have had internal discussions about possibly trading star pass rusher Micah Parsons. Parsons is entering his final year of his rookie deal, the fifth-year option, is set to make $24 million this season. This is a huge move on top of an offseason where we're starting to see some elite pass rushers be available or potentially be available. One, no doubt, Myles Garrett is the one at the top of the list. We don't know what's going to happen with him. I mean, it's not a guarantee he gets moved this offseason, even with Micah Parsons as well. I doubt he's going to get moved this offseason, but the discussion starting it's big. The other one's Max Crosby. I mean, there hasn't been anything official yet saying he wants out, or it's official that they are looking to trade him, but I presume he would be on the table. At least they would listen to offers for him. And now you're seeing with Micah Parsons with that as well. So it's crazy, the type of offseason we're having right now with the discussions, but this is kind of expected because of the contracts they've given out, or at least a bad contract they've given out right before this past season started, the last offseason. This is what the Cowboys have done. They kind of dug themselves in a hole to a point where they are potentially getting rid of their by far best defensive player on the team. No question, undisputed, the best defensive player on the team they have right now. And to me, that is massive. And I can't imagine what Cowboys fans are thinking if this, just hearing this report about potentially moving off of Micah Parsons, because he's one of the best, certainly for young defensive players, the best, if not the best defensive player in the league, and certainly without looking at age, one of the best defensive players in the league. I mean, you look at the stats; they are absolutely dominant. What he's done, he has averaged at least 12 sacks. That is the lowest he's had in a season, which is incredible. For me, 13 and a half, 14 and 12, 52 and a half sacks in his career, 9 forced fumbles. 4 fumble recoveries, 256 total tackles, 172 solo, and he has 9 pass deflections. I mean, he's been amazing because he's entered the NFL. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first team All Pro, Defensive Rookie of the Year, always in discussion for, or at least considered for, Defensive Player of the Year. He has the capability of always being that every single year in, year out. So, I mean, this is massive to lose a guy like this. And even with the big ransom that they're going to get, and no doubt for at least first-round picks, if you don't look at that, it'll be at least 2. It might be a little bit more because of his age being 25. It's going to be very tough for the Cowboys to replace this. Even if you get multiple defensive players, it's not easy to get. It's not easy to find these guys that can be consistent like this. And I know Micah Parsons hasn't maybe shown up at times in the biggest moments where it's a big primetime game or playoffs or whatever you want to call it. He's still a phenomenal defensive player that you would want on your team. He did miss a few games this year only playing 13 games this year. Before that, he's only missed 1 game in 3 years. That came all the way back in his rookie season. Even still, in 13 games, he basically averaged a sack a game, which is, again, absolutely phenomenal. And that's going to be tough to replace if they decide to go down that route. So like we said, looking at his contract, he is on his final year, like we said, 5th-year option, $24 million. He'll be 27 once the contract is up, but I do presume that they will franchise tag him. They will not let this guy walk. That is not, and you cannot afford to do this. I mean, Dallas sports has already gone through enough with Luka. I don't think they need to go through something like this for another botched situation with Micah Parsons losing a guy like this. When you look at the salary cap for 2025, right now they are over the cap, $2.3 million over the cap, which is 26th in the NFL, just on Spock Track. And you look at who they're paying right now on the roster. Let me click on that. Who they're paying right now on the roster, it's insane. And this is the bad contract that we were I mentioned to just a minute ago. Dak Prescott. A couple of years ago, when we started to have these discussions about, hey, Dak Prescott's coming up, CeeDee Lamb's coming up, Micah Parsons coming up, who are you going to pay? How are you going to do this? I believe that you can only get 2 out of the 3. It's going to be very difficult for you to get all 3 on there. If you do, you're going to have to make some good amount of changes to your roster to fit these three guys under the cap. But it seemed pretty fair. I think everyone agreed to get 2 out of 3. Mine was obviously Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. They got CeeDee Lamb, of course, but they made the big decision, the wrong decision, signing Dak Prescott to an annual $60 million a year. And now you're seeing that. I mean, I have no doubts that Prescott will restructure his deal and they'll fix the cap. But he is set to make, if we're all looking at this right, essentially not under $90 million, just under $90 million. His cap hit is 32.69 for the league cap, for the cap hit percentage. This is it's ridiculous. I mean, I understand I understand Dak Prescott had an MVP caliber season, and many people argue that, especially with now hearing the controversy with Josh Allen and going back and forth comparing numbers. You look at 2023. Again, Dak Prescott played phenomenally. He had amazing numbers. You want to say arguably he had his best season of his career. The guy was not worth $60 million. I'm sorry. If I was in charge, Parsons and CeeDee Lamb are my future cornerstone pieces. They're both 26 years old. They're still young, just entering, still in their prime, or if I say early in their prime still. I would lock those guys down and focus on someone else. I'm sorry, for Dak Prescott for $60 million, you can go out there, and I'd rather take the gamble of getting someone else for half that money, or at least $20 million less than money for it, annually. So you look at it, it boggles my mind. Almost $90 million. Again, just to emphasize, I do believe that they will restructure this deal, and they'll get that cap hit down, and they'll try and finagle the cap and other players as well to try and sign Micah Parsons. Again, you cannot afford to lose a guy like that when you really don't have that elite defensive player elsewhere on that. You look at Trayvon Diggs. He's another one, kind of hit or miss. I know he had his phenomenal sophomore season when he had 11 interceptions, but when you don't do that and you're not really the best at coverage, it's definitely a glaring problem. He's making 14.25 this year. Next year he'll be third in the team for his cap at 19.7. I don't want to say you get rid of him, but I mean you kind of look at that. Maybe that's a spot where you try and do something with the contract. Zach Martin, he's 35 years old. I think you try and look at that and go elsewhere. Get up, certainly up there in age. Injuries are starting to become a little bit of a factor. He's making $10.6 million this year. And next year he has a potential out or a void year. He's set to make, if not $17 million. I think they void that season out, and you have Zach Martin for one more year in 2025. DeMarcus Lawrence has a void year this year. He's making 8.7, getting up there in age as well, 33 years old. Malik Hooker, 7.75. Again, you're going on the list. Brandon Cooks also has a void year, $4 million. I mean, that's no question they'll move off of him. Not worth the money, just not the same player he used to be. You can find someone else cheaper at the wide receiver too. So there's a lot of choices, a lot of big decisions they got to do for Micah Parsons if they want to keep him. Once again, I think the result you're going to see this offseason, or next offseason, once it's the 2025 season up, is they'll franchise tag him, and then they'll push us down the line. Jerry Jones will push us down the line. I don't think there'll be a second franchise tag. I think there'll be a franchise tag and then a trade. Maybe they'll do a franchise tag now and then try and do a sign and trade, or wherever I want to go to, kind of similar suit to I think the similar tag they put on Lamar Jackson before he got his big contract. That's why I presume that to be. They'll give him one franchise tag and then try and trade him, get something for him if you cannot sign him to a long-term deal. I mean, who knows? We saw the franchise tag on Dak Prescott and he signed a long-term contract, so maybe the same thing follows with Micah Parsons. But I mean, for their sake, you have to keep this guy. You cannot afford to lose him. Again, regardless if you want to say in the biggest moments, maybe he doesn't play the best or doesn't do this or that, he is head and shoulders their best defensive player, and you cannot afford that because outside of him, there's no one that is phenomenal. I would say like, wow, he's amazing. This is that's a cornerstone piece. You really don't see that with anyone else outside of Parsons. So this is huge. If they do truly decide to go all in and say, you know what, it's time to move off of him. We believe in Dak Prescott. Certainly, we believe in CeeDee Lamb. We're going to stick with these two and try and get the pieces elsewhere. And whether it's the draft picks from the big ransom they get, or I don't want to say free agency because they never sign anybody, but free agency if that is a route they want to go to. But for the Cowboys, I'm going to be very interested to see how this plays out. I don't really expect anything this offseason. I kind of feel I think this is going to be more. This topic is going to really take over after 2025 when he has no more, when his contract is up, and now you have to really make that decision right then and there. Franchise tag him, long-term extension, or do something. You have to do something to at least keep him for a trade. So at least one or two. That's gonna be a bigger topic for next offseason. This offseason, you might hear it here and there, but I don't think it's gonna be too big of a topic. But certainly, this will be a big discussion for us next offseason when Parsons finishes up his rookie deal.